got a question here, and I'll ask both of you to give your thoughts on it. Our attendee wanting to know, how can a CLM, how can that support an organization navigating a recession? Do you have tips for using the solution to optimize revenue?
So great question. That is that phase this year. There's talk about recession. People are preparing for it. We kind of went through this with the COVID phase as well. 2 years ago, I remember organizations, changing the way they were forecasting their business for the rest of the year, how to handle the growth or lack thereof, and how can contracts help with that. So with the upcoming recession, think about all of the agreements you have in place with your suppliers as well as your customers. Things about price cap or termination provisions for things that tools or services that you may not need anymore, especially if you're trying to cut costs. I would say CLM can be very helpful in terms of evaluating your current landscape of contracts and terms that you have out there with your suppliers and with your customers to see what you can do for the next 6 months to 12 months. Hopefully recession hopefully doesn't last many years. But if you need to prepare for that and you need to look at all of these terms, it could get you very quick access to that information so you can make some decisions in terms of pivoting your business or certain relationships that you have with your suppliers. I remember there were contracts that we had where during certain times there was a discount that could have applied, and you can leverage that. So, taking 10% off of the services for the second half of this year or early part of next year could help in terms of your spend. If it's a sales agreement, you might be on the other side of it, but there might be price caps that you can delay. So, Colin, if you can add anything else to it, but my 2 cents, I think CLM can be a wealth of information and can expedite your decision making, which you would otherwise have to open up thousands of signed PDFs and try to make sense out of that data very manually.
Right. Power of technology, I think, and CLM in particular, comes from the fact that it can automate and make the time-consuming less time-consuming, which when you're dealing with a economic environment which is contracting or otherwise challenging is incredibly important because your time becomes even more valuable, and it's really, really vital for you to be spending your time not just efficiently but productively. And so, coming from the perspective of someone like myself who has been a one-person legal team before during a difficult economic environment, I really wish I had a CLM at the time because that would have made my life a whole lot easier for all sorts of reasons. Number one, I would be able to, through the system, be able to communicate the status of different agreements, be able to quickly look at an agreement and understand where the problematic parts are thanks to automated review. I'd be able to communicate through the system as opposed to looking for some random email thread with an incongruous or seemingly out of the blue subject line and respond and say, hey, I reviewed this, it's good to go, or hey, I need to tell you we should push back on this or the other thing. So it really is sort of a second set of eyes in some ways that can really help a small legal department or a legal department of one do more with less. And in an economic environment where there's a looming recession or is a recession, doing more with less is incredibly important. And this has been, I think, a theme for a long time, at least over the last decade, of legal departments and businesses overall, frankly, doing more with less. And that's where technology shines. It's the ability to kind of make you look like the hero by allowing you to spend more time on more strategic matters and automating the boring, time-consuming routine that can often take up a lot of time that you otherwise would like to spend on other things.